it is unbelievable where they were, and just I guess to me how quickly it all fell apart. It really is, because, Jacksonville's a Saxonville defense. You could sit there and go, back in 2017, you could go, they might have the best duo of linebackers in Miles Jack and Telvin Smith. They might have the best cornerback duo in football and Bouye and Jalen Ramsey. And they had the best defensive line in football with Dante Fowler, Calais Campbell, Yannick Ngakoue, Marcel Darius. Like, holy cow. It was unbelievable. And the fact that, they only got the one playoff appearance and it all fell apart so quickly to me, I guess that's the shocking thing, let alone, Leonard Fournette, Allen Robinson not there, some other really talented guys. But, man, this team was on the brink of me going like, whoa, this defense has a chance to be like one of the more dominant defenses we've ever seen, I think. I mean, they were dominant in a year in 2017 where their offense couldn't do anything, and they were still dominating. But it just shows you how quickly things can change in the NFL.
I want to circle back to what Peter said. All the draft picks the Jaguars have coming up, who's going to be there to exercise those picks. That helps us underscore the point we made last hour, Peter. In response to this notion that the Jaguars are somehow tanking, they're not tanking, because if they tank, Doug Marrone's gone as the coach and Dave Caldwell's gone as the GM. They've got no incentive to tank. If they're in their first year, maybe. No, they may be in their last year, and it may be someone else who comes in next year into one of the most attractive jobs in football with all those draft picks.
What people don't understand about tanking is that all the players who are going to be playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars this year, they're all basically on tape for everybody in the league.
Right.
If they're half a step slow, or if they don't do anything, to stand out at all, and they go 0-16, you think somebody else is going to hire them next year? No. Tanking is the biggest myth in the NFL.
Well, time out.
Away.
Time out. But
ahead.
The tanking comes from getting rid of all the good players. Of course, the players who are on the field are going to do their absolute best. The argument for tanking is Jalen Ramsey's gone, Yannick Ngakoue's gone, Leonard Fournette's gone, this guy's gone, that guy's gone. We're down to all the scrubs now, so we're just going to go let nature take its course. These guys are going to try their best. They're just not very good.
But how about last year when the Miami Dolphins, at this point of the year, September 1st, last year, everybody said, hey, the Dolphins are tanking. And then they went out and traded Laramie Tunsil, Kenny Stills, and Minkah Fitzpatrick. And then you know what happened? They had a better record than the Patriots after Halloween. So, I mean, tanking is a bunch of crap. It's crap. And
I think it happens at the higher level of the organization.
No, you're right about that, Mike. You're right. But Chris Grier did what he thought was best for the long-term best interests of the team. You get 2 ones for a left tackle who you really don't want to pay $18 million a year to. I mean, I'm not saying it's the right decision. Time will tell. History will tell. But what I am saying is there certainly is logic in what Chris Grier did and in Miami. And I don't think that it's absolutely illogical in Jacksonville. I saw the seeds of this last year when I was in training camp in Jacksonville. Jalen Ramsey was an angry guy. He was sullen. He was unhappy. He didn't want to stay in Jacksonville. You even knew that then. I asked him if he thought his career, if he was going to sign his new contract in Jacksonville, and he said, maybe.
Right.
And so, you could just tell something was up because, and then look, you guys might not think of this as the huge deal because obviously getting rid of Yannick Ngakoue for, in my opinion, 60 cents on the dollar max. If the Vikings make the playoffs, the best they get for Yannick Ngakoue is the 50th pick in the draft. A guy who's one of the best young defensive linemen in football. But to me, the one that told everything was Calais Campbell. He's the ultimate team leader, NFL Man of the Year. And they get rid of Calais Campbell after a year in which Pro Football Focus rated him the top 3-4 defensive end in football. And they get rid of him for a 5. And, look, some of these trades are to me, subtraction by subtraction. that was not a sensible trade for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It just wasn't. And just like I think David Caldwell waited way too long, obviously, to trade Yannick Ngakoue because he didn't get nearly enough compensation for such a good player. One of the reasons he didn't is because Yannick Ngakoue made it clear, I would rather be in, coaching high school football in Topeka than playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
It's odd to see the amount of star players they've had and some of the arguments and disgruntled, moments that you have seen in Jacksonville to where, you want to question sometimes about just like what the hell's going on down there. They got to get rid of Dante Fowler a little bit because of that. You mentioned Jalen Ramsey, and then, of course, this. And I know that's not foolproof. Calais Campbell was a model citizen and a model player. But, it's just a shame that many talented guys on your roster just 3 years ago, all gone, all of that. And other thing is, too, Mike, just on the last thing of the tanking thing, the tanking thing is always an interesting conversation. Coaches, though, they have a hard time tanking, too, because no one gives them the benefit of the doubt of the tanking down the road. So, because we're going to hold them to that record 5 years down the line, and everyone's going to go, well, you were 3-13, and you can't go, well, we were tanking. So they never give up as far as like what Peter's saying as far as the players on film and putting their best foot forward that way as well.
It definitely happened week 17 of the 2014 season when the Buccaneers pulled half their roster when they were up by 10 points against the Saints, and they lost the game, and they got Jameis Winston. That's what they wanted. That's what they got. It ultimately didn't work out, but it has happened from time to time. It's not happening with the Jaguars. They are trying to save their jobs. Doug Marrone said it yesterday. We played it last hour. I'm not going to be here if we aren't any good this year. Let me just raise this possibility because, it's kind of become out of sight, out of mind. When you look at Tom Coughlin's role with the team, 2017, 2018, 2019, how much of guys just wanting to get the hell out of Jacksonville is his fault, Peter?
Well, I think you have to look at what the NFLPA said when they talked about all of the grievances that players had against Jacksonville for, basically in the players, what the players contended that they were forced to be in Jacksonville in the off season to do things like rehab injuries and things like that when the CBA did not require them to do that. Right or wrong, a cadre of the players there blamed Tom Coughlin. And the Jaguars had a stiff upper lip about it. They didn't talk about it. But you'd have to ask the players on this. But I felt that guys like Jalen Ramsey, really chafed at some of the tighter regulations that Tom Coughlin installed in Jacksonville.
Yeah, listen, I think we could sit here and certainly point the finger at Tom Coughlin a little bit. I understand that. I think there's some good things he did there in Jacksonville, too. Hey, the first year he was there, they went to the AFC Championship game. I think some of that was because of, the things he had implemented there and probably a style of practice and just a different aura around the whole organization that probably benefited them as a football team. But there's that fine line of going too far and becoming too much of a dictator and not having an ear to your players or compassion for your players. And to me, that seems like, just from the outside looking in, what happened. And, then it becomes, hey, listen, this is not the 80s and 90s anymore. The modern day athlete's a little different. Yeah, we got a few more Jalen Ramseys in football who, wear their heart on their sleeve. When they're emotional, they let you know and they say it. And, I think there was a difference in generations there. But the biggest thing to me, too, is kind of what Peter brought up. You can't be like, hey, we're going to be detailed. We're going to be a rule follower. You got to follow the rules, while, wait, I'm going to break all the rules and not follow them, but you guys got to follow mine. That, to me, is where you start to fall on deaf ears and where I think players saw that and went, wait, that's kind of that's kind of a hypocrite there. He's going to break rules, but he expects us to follow all his rules. And I think that's where it kind of fell apart for Jacksonville.
You were going to say hypocritical, but you had a flash through your brain that there's a chance, just a chance, that it was going to get you a new addition to the Simsism.
I'm always second-guessing things that are coming out of my mouth. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know, but now I'm gun-shy sometimes. I'm about to say the right word. I'm like, wait, is that right? Hold on.
I think the fact that they – and remember how they unceremoniously dumped Tom Coughlin before the end of the year? I mean, he was going to retire anyway. Just let him finish out the year. Let him keep some of his dignity instead of reaching in and firing him. And it created a real sense at first. Is Marrone out? Is Caldwell out? There was a report that Marrone was going to be fired that came out just before the Week 17 game. I think ESPN reported that and then doubled down and tripled down, and Marrone wasn't fired. There is just kind of a weird sense of what ownership wants in Jacksonville, but I think it's smart to give the organization a year to kind of breathe without Coughlin there as the overlord. And maybe this dynamic of guys who can't wait to get out of Jacksonville, maybe that's going to end, Peter.
Yeah, Shad Khan was very clear at the end of last year. He did take some time to think about it. I think he and Arthur Blank, his buddy up I-75 in Jacksonville or in Atlanta, had the same kind of thought at the end of last year. Man, maybe I should clean house. But both of them said, no, I'm going to do it the Steeler way. I'm going to be stable. And so the Falcons kept their guys, and Shad Khan chose to keep his guys. But it was very clear. It was made very clear in Jacksonville last year that, look, Doug Marrone is right. If he doesn't win this year, even though he's got a hand and a half tied behind his back, he's going to get fired.
Yeah, and also, let's not forget, Mike, I know we discussed this at the end of last year, too, with Doug Marrone, as far as the conversation there, and just saying – I remember him making a comment, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that he couldn't do everything he wanted to do because of some of the forces above him. And I know you and I took that as like Tom Coughlin might have had his hand in the cookie jar in a little too many, areas and everything like that, to where, Doug Marrone probably feels like, damn, I've been handcuffed as a head coach the last few years too, and how I want to run this football team and deal with my players. And I think that's probably caused some of the issues down there as well.
I think it's one of the reasons why the trend that kind of was starting with Bill Parcells is never really going to go anywhere, whether it's Mike Holmgren, Parcells, Tom Coughlin. I think it's very hard for a football coach to work for a football team and be anything other than a football coach, because that's all he's ever done. So he's going to coach the coach if he's employed in any capacity with the team, and maybe
right.
The end result is you just can't have those guys around unless you hire them to be your head coach.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.